Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Curious About Kakuro. This is probably the last tutorial that we'll go through because after this there should be nothing more that I can tell you about solving these puzzles. We're up at the hardest level that there is. I've gone through all of the charts that show you how all these numbers work and the structures, and all I'm hoping you're doing is having a go yourself and just more practice, getting quicker and quicker and more confident. What I may do in the future is just come back now and again and solve some of these ones, just basically keep myself on my toes. But let's go through like we normally do and just see if there is anything else that will come up here that just may help you in solving these. Okay, let's go straight off, just scanning through from the top up, and here we go. 16 I know is the second top pair that's got no options. It can't be 8, it can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. It can only be 7 or 9, so I'll put that in, 7 or 9, and on this side it can only be 7 or 9. Okay, I can look down here, 35 in 5. I know that that can be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's no options in the top 5 runs, so I'll put that in. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know that can't be a 5, so it can be 6, 7, 8, 9. It can't be a 5 because to make 10, there'd be a 5 on the other side. So this would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8. No point going any higher than 8 because if that was a 9, we'd be looking at 6 numbers to make 9, and there's no such thing. 8, when it's 18, 8 is the highest number that could go in there when it's a when there's 4 numbers left in a 5-number run. If it was asking you for 5 numbers that will add up to let's just say 16, then obviously 6 would be the highest number that can go in there. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. But anyway, let's not get carried away too much there. We've put all the options in. Yet we can take the tangents over the other side. So these being in sequence can only be 1, 2, 3, 4. Another thing to keep in the back of your mind is that we're looking for 4 numbers here that add up to 13. So the highest number that can go in there is 7. The reason being is that if you go higher than that and to get into 8, you would be looking at 3 numbers that would then add up to 5. 1, 2, 3 is the lowest number you can get, which is 6. So 7 is the smallest number. That could, sorry, 7 is the largest number that can go in there. Okay, so let's just work out here now. If this was a 9, that would have to be a 7, which would be 16. So 9 is too big to go in there. It can't be. Same thing with this 7. If that's a 7, that would be a 9, which would be 16. So the 7 can't go. Okay, if the 8 and 9 would go, that's 17. It's too big. 8 and 7 is 15. Still too big. So on this side of things, then 6 is the smallest number that can go in there. So 9 and 6 is 15. It can't go in there. 6 and 7 is 13, so that could be a 2 then. With the 5, then the 5 and 9 is 14, which means it could be a 1. And 5 and 7 then would be 12, and that would be a 3. So the only numbers that can go in there is 1, 2, and 3. So on this side, it could be 7, 8, and 9. If any of these numbers were 7, 8, or 9, that would add up to 24, meaning this could be the 1 in there. So we'll worry about those later. Okay, across here, we're looking for 7, 8, and 9, but down here, we always shorten the numbers as quickly as what we can. This can only be 8 or 9. If this was a 9, it would be 9, 1, 1. So I know that that has to be the 8. This has to be the 9. Okay, because then it's 8 and 3 is 11. It can only be 1 and 2. 1 can't go in here. Otherwise, we'd be looking at 4 numbers that would add up to 31. So again, the same thing. When you're looking at 5 numbers, then any number smaller than the 2, it can't be. So this has to be the 2. This has to be the 1. And as we know in here, this can only be 7 or 8. This can only be 7 or 8. Oops. 7 or 8. Now in here, because we've established this as the 2, we know now we're looking for 4 numbers adding up to 30, which can only be 6, 7, 8, or 9. So I know that this can't be 8. If it's 7, we've already got the 1. This can only be the 6, which makes this the 2. So these now can only be 7, 8, or 9. This can only be 7, 8, or 9. Okay, it can't be 9 with the 1, it can't be 8 with the 2, it has to be 3 with the 7. So that now takes care of this whole column. Because that is now 7, this has to be 8. This can't be 7 or 8, it has to be 9. Because that's 8, this has to be 7. So because it's, well, we only have to look in there now, we're looking for 7, 8, 9. I know that this has to be the 8, and this has to be the 7. Let's work it out. Now 7, 8 is 15, and 6 is 21. So yeah, we've got this corner established, and also we've got a lead into this column as well, because now we've established 7, subtract from 14, leave 7. It can only be 1, 2, and 4. 1 and 2 cannot go in here. That has to be the 4. If 1 and 2 was in here, then the numbers would be too high to go to. So, 8 and 9 is the highest number, so 3 is the smallest number that can go in there. So this can only be 1 or a 2. This can only be 1 or 2. Now that the 4 is established, we're looking now at 2 numbers that can add up to 16, which can only be 7 and 9. And as we said on the 13 over this side, this has to be the 7, because it can't be 9. This has to be the 9. Because it's 7 now, it can only be 1, 2, 3, because 7 and 6 is 13. 1 can't go there, so it can only be 2 or 3. This can't be 1, so this can only be 2 or 3. So this has to be the 1. If that's 1, this is 2. And if that's 2, this has to be 1. Okay, let's go here now. Because we've got the 9 established there, this cannot be the 2, because that would mean it would be 2 and 9. It can only be the 3 and the 8, which means that this now has to be 2. Turning this number now, instead of looking for 4 numbers adding up to 26, we're looking at 3 numbers adding up to 24, which can only be 7, 8, 9. We've already got 8 or 9, so 7 has to go there. This has to be 8 or 9. 8 can't go here, so that has to be the 9. So this is 8 and 5 to make 13, and 9 and 7 to make 16. 7 and 5 is 12, so this is the 1. 7, 8, 9 is 24, 25. This has to be 5 to make 30. 5, 6, 8, that's 15. We're looking now for 2 numbers that add up to 17, which can only be 8 and 9. If this was the 9, we couldn't have the 1, so this has to be the 8. This is the 9, making this the 2. Okay, now on this row we've already established 3. So now instead of having 5 numbers adding up to 27, we've got 3 numbers adding up to 24, which again is 7, 8, and 9. The only number that can go here is 7. So now we're looking for 8 and 9. 9 can't go here, so it has to be 8, and this has to be the 9. So because we've now established this as a 7, this has to be the 1. Okay, 8, 9, 17, plenty of options here. 9 now, because we're now left with 7 in this column. In 3 can only be 1, 2, and 4. So let's put those in. This, we've got the 1 can only be 2 and 4. This could be 1, 2, 4. This could be 1, 2, 4. What else can we learn from this? Okay. Yep, that could work. 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. Okay, on this side now here with 21, that cannot be 1 or 2 for the same reason that we had over here. It has to be the 4. 21, 20, 19, 18, 17 can only be 8 and 9. So this has to be the 8, because no number higher than 8 can go in there, and this has to be the 9. Okay, so because this is 4 there, that's 2. This cannot be 2 or 4, so it's 1. Okay, Now we can just work from here, keeping these in mind. We'll fill these in a sec. 17 is now 16, which can only be 7 and 9. Remember, you can't have any numbers higher than 7 in here, so that has to be the 7, and this is the 9. So because this is 9, that cannot be 9. If this can't be 9, this cannot be 1. And because we've established 7 now, this has to be 6, which is 1, 2, 3. That cannot be the 4. If it can't be 4, that cannot be 6, because the pairs always go together. Here we've got 1 and 2, so this has to be the 3. This has to be the 2. So this now has to be the 1. Okay, so now because this is 2, this has to be the 8. With the 8 being established, this cannot be 8. And this one cannot be 8. Okay, with now 25 in 4, we're now looking at 24. We've had a lot of 24 runs, which is all 7, 8, 9. So it cannot be 5 or 6. It can only be 7. So that cannot be a 7 anymore. This cannot be 7 or 9. That has to be the 8. 9 and 7 makes 16. 8 and 2 makes 10. 7 and 2 is 9, and 6 is 15. So this down here cannot be 6 or 7. It has to be the 5, and adding up to these, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 5, which is 11. This has to be the 7. 7, 8, 9 is 24, 30. So we're looking now at 11 in 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 5. So down here, 1, 2, that's 5 is the only number that can go in there. 1 can't go in here, so this can only be 2 or 3. This could be 1, 2, 3. 4 can only be 1 or 3. So we'll be able to get most of the centre sorted out now. 5 and 9 is 14. 9 and 8 is 17. 8 and 3 is 11. So that cannot be 3. It has to be the 1. This cannot be 1 or 3, so it has to be 2, making this the 5. And 5 and 3 is 8. And 1 and 3 is 4. So yep, we've only got this bottom corner now to sort out. Okay, now going back down here, because this is 8, we've got 10 left, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. We can't have 1 and 2 in it. It can only be 3 or 4. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Because a couple of these are pairs, we'll soon be able to sort these out now. This cannot be 1, otherwise the 9 would have to go then. You can't have the same number twice, so I can eliminate the 1. Also, this cannot be 3 for the same reason, otherwise that would be 9 to make 12. So that has to be the 4 and the 8. Because this is 4, this can't be 4, this can't be 4, and this can't be 4. Because we've, that's got to be 8. So because this is 8, that can't be 2. It can only be 7 and 3, which means that this cannot be 3, and this cannot be 3. Okay, let's look in here. If this was a 1, we'd need 2 numbers add up to 16, which can only be 7 and 9. We've already got 7 and 9, so I know that 1 cannot go there. That has to be the 2, and this has to be the 1. So we're now looking at 17, 6, 15, which we know is 6, 7, 8, 9. We've already got 7 and 9, so it can only be 6 and 9 on this side. 9 means that has to be 2. 1 and 2 is 3, so this has to be 5. And that's how long it takes you. We'll just check that we've got everything right. We're at the expert level puzzles, and we're doing them, again, with me explaining them. You will get these down to under 10 minutes. And as I say, look, it's been a pleasure doing these things for you. I will keep doing a few in the future, but as far as tutorials go, there is nothing else that I can show you. As I say, just practice and get better at it. And I hope you enjoy it. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.